Hey, so my name is Prasad Tamineni. I'm the founder and CEO of Agent Man. Agent Man is an AI startup meant to help people build AI agents without writing code. We started on down this journey about 18 months ago while we were thinking about building agents at scale. And we found code-first frameworks like LangChain and Crew AI were hard to use after a while. So we came up with our own no-code programming language in English, which then we tested and we found that it was really good at building agents. So we started to build a product around it. We were early to the market. The product was ready in some shape or form by May of last year, but we didn't launch it because we were early to the market. And then I spent a few months at Salesforce running their Frontier AI team, which was basically building agents that were version 2 and version 3 agents beyond Agentforce. And in November of last year, I left Salesforce to start Agent Man because we felt the market was ready. And our focus is mainly in the SMB space where people don't have an AI engineer on staff or IT on staff, and they still want to leverage agentic technology. So over the last, since January when we went public, we have done 5 workshops like this where we teach agents what they are, etc., and how to build an agent. You typically, by the end of the workshop, you have built a sophisticated e-commerce agent and whatever agent you want to build. This is the first class where we're running it over a week. Typically, it's a 3-hour workshop. That's how we built, done it before. But this is a first form a time where we said, hey, let's do 2 hours today. A week from now to another 2 hours. Between these 2 sessions, we'll actively support you in the form of helping you build agents so that as you are thinking of building your own set of agents and using our platform, as you have problems, as you have concerns, as you have thoughts, ideas, etc., we'll actively support you. So think of it as a online and offline kind of workshop to help you build an agent. And in the end of this second session, there'll be about 30 minutes time where you can come and present your agents. And in a minute or two, show people what you have built, why you have built, and what kind of techniques you have employed. Okay. So that's basically the workshop. With that, let me give you a sense for what we plan to cover today. Uh, we'll do a quick introductions, understanding agents in general, what makes up an agent, and what makes up an agent with an agent man. You will see that agents in general, regardless of which platform you build with, have 4 different components that make up an agent, and that's what you will see with agents in Agent Man as well. Along you'll be doing hands-on building. By the time we are at 30 or 40 minute mark, I want you to guys start building an agent. And then once you build an agent, I want you to think about testing the agent using what is called synthetic tools, and then connecting with the real tools to be able to build a working agent. I have 2 other topics here called Zapier Zaps. You probably are familiar with Zapier. It's a no-code workflow automation tool. And it's something that you can use to connect to 7,000 applications out there. So how do you connect your agent to one of those? It's something that you will see. Lastly, calling other agents. This is the multi-agent platform. Our agents, or in general, multi-agent agents. But even those multi-agent agents can call a different agent, and I will show you how that is done. If you have done this course before, if you've seen our product until 3 days ago, you will see a lot of big changes to the product. We have made it even easier to build agents. And you're the first folks to be able to try some of these things. So, and those features are in beta, so I'll point you out with just which those are, but they should work most of the times. Um, Quickly, as I mentioned, we are pioneering the idea of building agents with 7,000 plus apps. We focused on e-commerce initially, but we were expanding beyond e-commerce to hospitality, healthcare, etc. Our focus is in the SMB space. We're two founders. Moshe and I started this company about a year ago, close to a year ago. We both come with deep generative AI expertise. In fact, I was telling somebody today, it's been 2 years since I built my first agent. The first agent that I built was a co-pilot to analyze data to help managers ask questions in English, and it would go and analyze data and come back and answer in English format. It was extremely brittle, the first agent. It would work sometimes, it would fail. In 2 years, the technology has changed dramatically. Our understanding of the technology has changed. So the agents that you're building are quite sophisticated compared to what was built 2 years ago. Okay. At the end of the class, I would love for you guys to fill out a survey form because that's what helps improve this class. You will get a certificate email to you, which you can add to LinkedIn. It's an agent building certificate. And we want you to see if you can actually share it on LinkedIn and share it with others. Others will learn about this class and will take this class. Our goal is to democratize agent building, make agents accessible to everybody and not just that AI engineer who understands LangChain or CrewAI or one of these programming frameworks. Our goal is to make sure that it's available to everybody and who can realize the benefits of it. Here, what are AI agents? Maybe the way I like to do this is because some of you have already taken this, maybe if you can go around, tell me what you think are AI agents. Okay. Raise your hand and then speak up. We want this to be as interactive as we can. Yeah. Okay, should I just call out the people?
I can
Okay, all
speak
right,
up.
go ahead.
It's in my mind it's an automation. So it's also autonomous. So it's a piece of software that is taking autonomous actions of whatever prompt and system prompt is given to it.
Okay, anybody else would like to add anything?
Yeah, I can add to it. I think on those same lines, I would say agent is an almost near replacement for a human being in terms of being able to interact with another entity or a person and then be able to give human-like responses back and even give them information or move them forward down their request or whatever they're trying to do. So they're sort of human-like behavior.
Cool.
And
So what makes them behave that way? What are the things that humans do that
Mm.
I mean I wouldn't go as far as saying 100% replacement, but they're starting to show some signs and symptoms, right?
Can
So what are
raise
the things that
can
they
raise
have they have agency to act as humans in terms of collecting information, processing information, making decisions, and taking actions, just like
Yeah.
a human agent would potentially do. And it's not just an input output of do this task complete. It's the ability to make decisions that normally a human person would do.
Yeah. And I
I
can
would
add to
say,
that they can also go backward and forward. So they're not linear. They can be human-like, saying, oh, you brought something up, but you move forward, but you want to go back, I can go back to it. It's not like, they only linearly move forward. And they remain within the constraints of what particular subject matter you're dealing with. So they're not fully human in terms of talking about soccer and weather at the same time as doing everything else.
um,
some,
I would say like,
yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say like, I guess we can separate out both the words AI and agents. Agents are basically what we hire any third party to on our behalf. By appending AI to it, what we are saying is that you are still expecting it to do an activity that you would assign to any other agent, but these agents are powered by some artificial intelligence backed system. Traditionally, an artificial intelligence backed system can be just even a rule making, like a rule based engine. But I guess with the advancement that we have done in the NLP domain, now we are getting a bit more closer to the way the humans in general capture the information, process the information, pass the information, makes the required connection within our own domain, use the knowledge that we already have to finally come to an action or a plan that can be executed and execute upon it.
Cool. Thank you. This is all. It's everything that you guys have described makes what an agent is. And this slide summarizes what you're saying. To Prem's point, is you can build agents by giving them exact goals they need to accomplish and put guardrails or constraints so they behave within that goal. They can be interactive or they can operate on their own. They can make decisions, as Sparul said, can reason through it, understand what your people are saying, and take actions. Right? So, and that's where the connectedness comes in, where when they take actions. So, I'm going to skip the differences between chatbots and agents. I think the content that I shared talked about it. So let's just go to agent categories. Now, there is no clear definition out there in terms of what are agents, what are different types of agents, etc. It's all over the place. That's why every company that you come across says we are an agent company. And they span from everything from doing something so small as checking the status of your order to doing very complex things such as deep research agent from OpenAI that takes 15 minutes to do stuff and come back, right? So they span the spectrum. Agents come in different forms, shapes, and sizes, right? So if you've interacted with Notebook LLM from Google, then parts of it are driven by agentic behavior. So if you ask it to go understand all the documents and come back and summarize it, that's basically an agent doing a particular task. And a number of such individual agents work together to deliver value. The way I like to think about it is in three different ways. We're called functional agents. These are specifically designed to perform a functional task, such as customer support, sales support, HR, finance, etc. Things that we as companies, right? So if you take any company, they have these functions that they perform. That's what makes a company. And whether it's a 2-person company or a 10,000-person company, you have these functions, sales, marketing, support, etc. And if you build agents to perform those activities, they're called functional agents. And language models like OpenAI, Gemini, etc., can understand these things extremely well, functional behavior, because they have been trained on these things. So you can build an agent that works very well in the functional world. Then we talk about vertical agents. These are specific to each industry or within a company within industry that are purpose-built, usually built with knowledge that is specific to that company that only that company knows. And they interact with employees, vendors, customers, or systems to perform these activities. Now, these tend to be vertical agents that people are building. You see an explosion of vertical agents out there that people are going to build, like legal agents, ERP agents, and so on, but built for certain verticals or within a sector within the same vertical. The last are technical agents. Code generation is something that's extremely popular. People are building full-fledged apps with code generators like Windsurf, Cursor, etc. You probably heard the phrase vibe coding, where most of the coding is done by agents. We use that extensively. That's why even a small team like ours with 3 engineers are able to do the work of 8 engineers. Okay. And so on. Those are technical agents. They tend to be written in programming languages, right? So in Python, etc. But the deep orchestration built in. And if you look from left to right, no-code agents can be built. Using no-code builders, you can build functional agents very easily. But as you start to get more and more technical, you'll have to rely on programming languages to build technical agents. Okay. Now, interaction styles, conversational agents is what we will build in this class, where you're interacting in a chat mode to perform tasks. Now, they can be deployed within any chat environment, on a website, etc. You have a second class of agents or operational agents, where these tend to perform a series of tasks and then come back with results. If these same operational agents are deployed in a certain schedule or in a certain event, you will call them ambient agents. Basically, they're looking out for you. They're watching things. If something happens, they take an action. Okay, so I'm going to skip the slide so we can move on. So I'm going to start with a demo to show you what you will all build by the end of the class. Okay. This is skintastic.shop. You can try it as well. It is a demo Shopify store. The reason you're going to build e-commerce agents here is not because the platform is purpose-built for e-commerce. It's because e-commerce is so accessible to everybody. Everybody understands e-commerce. And e-commerce is a complicated set of flows. It's not doing order status. You'll be able to do product recommendations. There's a search engine. There is returns, etc. So there are a number of workflows that you can try out very quickly in the e-commerce world that you can then transfer to other verticals. So that's the reason why e-commerce lends itself very well to build agents within a classroom. So with that, let's do a demo here. Now, when you click on it, the agent in this case is in the corner. It's giving you a menu. It doesn't have to have a menu, but in this case it does. So I'm going to ask it a question. What is the order status on 1005, which is a real order, with email? I know that it's going to ask me for email, so I'm just going to give it right away, right? Otherwise, it would have asked me for the email. So now it's going to connect to the store. What is the orders? I just did. Okay. So it went and connected to the store and brought back these details. Right. So it's saying you bought these parts, etc., and so on. And it was placed on February 9th. Right. So I can now go on to ask. So this is the order status. Right. So this is clear order status. If I show you the orders, this is a screen for it. Right. So this is the Shopify admin store, and this is the order. Okay. I also have another order that I placed a couple of days ago. And you can always ask, how about 1006? It's going to pull out the order details for those, right? So now we've got order status for 2. Now I'm going to ask another question here. This is a store, right? So it sells high-end men's skincare products. So I'm going to ask the agent here, find me some moisturizers. Now, this is not a support question. This is like a product recommendation question, right? So now it's going to go and connect to the store, look for products that have the word moisturizer in them, right? This is a search problem. So we went from a simple lookup problem with order status to a search, right? So, and people who have built search systems understand it's really complicated because I asked a very simple question, find me moisturizers, right? So then it went and looked for the word moisturizer and brought back. Anand?
Quick question, can this agent, let's say we build using Agent Man, can this be applied to like any e-commerce store? Is this like, does it work on browser or is it for specific stores?
No, so in this case, you will see when you're building, it's for Shopify stores, but the APIs, if you change, you can work with WooCommerce, BigCommerce, anything else. So it's just a matter of what tools you connect with. The agents would work automatically. Okay. And that's the part that you will learn as you go along. So now I'm going to say, recommend me one as I am closer to 50, right? So this is what you will see when you go into Macy's. There are these beauticians or consultants that will actually look at you and ask you questions and you say, what recommendations, right? So this is where language models are really good, right? This is the reasoning part of it. They know when I said I'm closer to 50, it says, when you get older, you start to have wrinkles. So you need something that will help with your wrinkles, right? So now it's taking that information, understood that, and triaging with the products that we have to identify that this age fighter anti-wrinkle retinol is good. So This is where it's taking that language training or the training that it was trained on and applying it to the data that we have, right? So the global versus local.
Prasad?
Yes.
This is Prem. Yeah, so this the earlier question was, can it be applied to any other store? But in this case, Is this particular Shopify just a synthetic data or is it actual store?
So this particular store, we
Oh, okay, you just
so what we did is we took products from other
yeah
sites and populated it. So it's real data, right?
yeah.
It's got descriptions, it got ingredients, right?
Mm.
All this and how to use all those
Mm.
things. See, it's always tapping into this, right? So it's asking, going in the questions and answering the questions.
Got it.
Tanuja and Anand?
Yeah, I was wondering what LLMs is this using?
So we'll get to that one, but quickly, it's using OpenAI's language models, but it will work with other top tier language models as well. Our goal is when we build our agent platform, what we have found, in my own experience while at Salesforce as well, most people don't want to know what model to use. They want to know that whatever agent they build works all the time, right? So they want to be told what model. And what we have seen is the cost of models have dramatically dropped. So it doesn't matter whether you use an OpenAI or Anthropic or Gemini, they all tend to perform very well. Now, if you want to go and use something like a cheap Chinese model like DeepSeek, and I say that in a way because we've tested it and that performs terribly. So even though they got a lot of hype, it does not do a good job of it. And when you log in, we now have an ability for you to select a model and you can see the difference in the performance. So, but by default, we use OpenAI models because at the end of the day, you want it to be accurate all the time and consistent all the time. So you don't care how it makes it happen.
Thanks.
No, good question. So now I'm going to go a little further, right? Asked a recommendation question. It looked at the data that it had and then leveraged its knowledge, right? And said, why is it so expensive, right? So because this is a question, it's like $30. I never bought a moisturizer for $30, right? It's so expensive. Now, this is nowhere on the website, but language models have been trained to understand what ingredients go into a particular product and why something's more expensive than others, right? So it said, hey, look, it's a specialized formulation that includes retinol and SPF 15. And those are the things that make it more expensive. And of course, the brand, etc. all that, right? So now this is so far we did order status, product lookup, and ask some general questions, which are not on the website. So I'm going to ask questions about what's on the website. So I'm going to say, how do I use it? So at this point, it's going to go pull the data from the website, which is here, and describe it, right? So came back and gave a detailed explanation of this, right? I can also say, hey, look, you're asking me to apply on the face and neck. By the way, I use moisturizer, but I never moisturize my neck. It's natural, doesn't happen. So I'm going to ask them, why the neck? Now, this is something that as a consultant in a store, you would know this, and it's come back and answers, right? So that's the same thing a language model is doing, is understanding the question, seeing, okay, why the neck, and why do you have to moisturize the neck? Oh, it's because the neck is thin skin and has the same problems as the face, right? So now, if you extrapolate this into any kind of business context, what it's doing is leveraging the data that it has access to, plus its worldly knowledge to triangulate and answer that question. Right. Chatbots in the old school world don't behave this way, right? So they don't have these reasoning skills or thinking skills or applying that knowledge to the question and able to answer. I'm going to start with a return, right? Say, hey, I would like to return the order. Now I've asked it for 2 order statuses. Now it's coming back and said, which order is that you're talking about? Now, where was that? That was way up here, right? So this is what Prem is saying, is that it doesn't matter. It is not linear. You can ask questions out of turn. You don't have to follow a sequence. You can jump around, just like we humans do, right? Never thought. And now it's prompting me, yes, 1005. So now it needs to know, can I return this product, right? So if I look at the store here, these are the return policies in the store, right? The return policies in the store are, we have a 14-day return policy. So it's retrieving the return policy, analyzing what it's saying. Oh, it's 14 days. Looking at the order details, which is it was placed on February 9th. Today is what, March 27th, way beyond the 14-day window. And coming back and responding with an answer.
Prasad?
Sure.
I don't know where the hand wave gesture is, so I'm just interrupting like this. But can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So this in the discussion, this would be a functional conversation model, right?
Yes, totally.
Right. Okay. And then is this agent sitting on the website of this company, or it's an agent that is gone to this website, was pointed to this website?
No, it is sitting on, if somebody goes to a store, Fantastic.shop, it's sitting in the corner, right?
Right. Okay, it'll pop up there. Okay, I got it. So then the information that it is providing back, like return policy and all that, that's embedded in the website, or that is extra knowledge it has from the company?
So it is connecting to this website's backend
Yeah. Okay.
and retrieving the data.
Okay. Got it. So on the website, there may be something about return policy, but then you'd have to click it and go there. But this one will go find it and give the answer right. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and by the way, it's not at all uncommon. You will see in general e-commerce stores, people come with return questions, right?
Yeah.
You will see it somewhere at the bottom, right? But people don't go read it. You
Yep.
would think people say, hey, you know what? I have a question. Can I return this product? Now, the product could be, some stores have 60-day return policy, some have 15 days, some have, you have to pay what do you call it? A fee, I think,
Yeah.
restocking fee,
Restocking fee. Yeah. Yeah.
all those things, right? So that analysis, the language model agent can do and respond in a very empathetic fashion, as opposed to, documents tend to be kind of very curt, very matter of fact. Okay. So this is the demo, right? So what we're going to do is today, my hope is by the end of the day, you'll build some of this functionality. Okay. May not have installed it on a website, but you will do all that in your agent.
Okay.
You
Krishna's
have-
got a question. He's got his hand up, but I don't know how to get hands up. Okay.
So Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah, so if this was a chatbot versus this being an agent, what would be the difference that I would see?
So, okay, that's a great question. So I'm gonna show you. Okay. Okay. Let's start with. Okay. Adriana Papel is a $50 million e-commerce company. Okay. And they sell through Macy's, they sell online, right? It's women's fashion. 50 to 60% of their products are returned. Okay, in fashion industry, it's very common to have such high returns. So if you look at their chatbot, all is a series of menus, right? It's a return exchange. Can I help with it? How can I help you? All right. It is bins and exchanges, policies, retrading it, right? And nothing else. I need more help. Thank you for reaching out. Leave a comment and we'll go there, right? So this is typically a chatbot where you have menus and so on, right? So at the end, you talk to a human. The other version of a chatbot is a customer of ours. We're working to deploy agents there. So looks like they have disabled the chat. Oh, there it is. Right. So if you ask a question, your delivery say, hey, which color cap should I use? And by the way, they sell therapeutic products and color is important. So thanks for reaching out. We will be with you soon. Enough agents. So this is a chatbot where you're now chatting with a human on the other side if they come online. So it's the past 5:45, they're probably not available. They'll ask you to contact. So this is the chat interface that you get. You either have menus where you click to get the answer. And the last one I'm going to show you, if they still not fixed it, OpenAI. Okay? The company that's pioneering all this. So let's see what their support is, right? So help center. Okay. So this is their okay. So how can I contact support a billing? So I had a billing problem, right? We pay for the pro product, which is $200 a month. It suddenly canceled me. So I went there and I started searching and it said, hey, it said billing and it said use the chatbot to do it. So I clicked on that and came here. And all it does is it gives me the same help, right? What is plus, etc., and so on. There is no reasoning, there is no understanding, there is no tool calling, none of it. And this is a company that is selling at $12 billion in revenue this year on a run rate. So they're not dogfooding their own products in a way. So that's how you shouldn't do an agent. So, even the best of the people don't necessarily do their best agents. Okay, so that is
Good answer. Thank you.
So it's fun. I mean, I was really shocked to do that, and they outsourced that agent to somebody else. It's not even built by them. It's Intercom, and I don't blame Intercom. It's the way they have implemented it's bad. Okay.
All right, nobody touch it. That's my account.
So here, so let's understand agents, right? So sure. No, sorry. Are you guys able to see the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
So we went through a demo and looked at things. So agents, we have seen they're able to plan the next step by looking at what happened until then, right? So when I asked the question, can I return this order? It went back and said, hey, in order to return, I need to know order status. I need to know order ID. And it went back and reflected on all the previous conversation, pulled all that information and asked me which of the two products, which are two orders. And then went and said, okay, that's great. I'm going to retrieve the return policy and assess what's in the return policy and then apply to both and give me a response. Now, if it was within the return window, maybe it could have allowed me to return it by acting on it. Right? So if you think about an agent, it does all these things. And because it was able to go back and recall how many orders I had requested status on, it's remembered all that information and recollected it, and then used that to take action. So that's basically what an agent is. It plans, evaluates, remembers, and acts. Now, the remembering part is only constrained to that conversation, but doesn't mean that we can't store that somewhere and recollect or recall that information when we need it in the future. So it's you can build all that capabilities. Arif?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Prasad. The demo was interesting, and I'm just trying to summarize to myself how that works. So there is a Shopify website, and on that website you have deployed agent that works perhaps underneath using some OpenAI model, and it also refers to the actual data, the e-commerce data of that website, and gives you information either from that or from the LLM. How much of this, I mean, I'm just trying to set an expectation for myself. Like, I want to create a model, I want to create an AI agent at the end of this course. I am in a job hunt phase right now. I want to create a curated job posting list. There are like 12,000 jobs. I want to create 50, which is like my skill set match. And once I have them, the part 2 of that, I want to be able to auto apply in them. Is it something that I would be able to achieve? It's okay if you say no. I'm just trying to,
No, I have to get specific. So what we do is at the end of it. So this is a great question. So I want you all to think about what kind of an agent you want to build over the next week. Okay. So at the end of the class, you can team up with others, get together. You probably got a link in the email inviting you to join the builder community. It's basically a group discussion, join it. That's where you will start asking questions and we'll support you through the next week. Okay. And then on Monday at the same time, we have Ask Me Anything session for an hour, ask me a question or AMA. So you can join the same call on Monday at 5 and then ask all those questions. So you can do both offline and online and help you think through it. Now, obviously, you may not be able to do all of what you want out of the box, but we'll get you there, right? So our goal is the product is continuing to evolve and getting built. So at some point you'll be able to do all of it, but we're not quite there yet. That's your quick answer to it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think it felt like magic, right? Looking at this agent going and doing all this stuff, right? So it feels a little, hey, how did this happen? How is it able to recollect all this? So let's look at what's under the system, right? Where does the model fit in? Where does Agent Man fit in? Where does the website fit in, and so on? So this diagram, and this for people who are programmers understand what is like sequence diagram, shows you a sequence of calls being made from left to right between all the actors or the different components, right? By the way, this is simplified, yet it is the same thing regardless of any agent you see out there, right? The entire all agents run what is called a loop, and you will see what this loop is. So the user asks a question, or say, hey, sends a query, asks a question. The agent, in this case, agent man agent, will take that question and say format whatever it is and add some context to it. And the context would have been everything that was said before, right? So add all that together because that's where the memory comes from and sends it to the model. Okay. The model now has the latest question plus all the previous context. The model will reason through all of that information and say, in order to answer this question, I need to do all these things. Oh, by the way, in order to answer this question, I also need additional data. And the agent has told me in order to get this additional data, I have to make an API call or a tool call. And this is the tool I need to call. So it returns what tool to call back to the agent OS here. That's our operating system, right? It says, hey, I need more information to answer this question, and that information is available with this tool. And that tool name is what is returned to the agent. Now the agent will then literally make that tool call. So in our example, when we said, what is the order status on 1005 with email so-and-so, it came to LLM. LLM said, hey, in order to answer this question, I need to call this tool called fetch order details. And this fetch order details, based on what I've been told, accepts two arguments, order ID and email address. I'm going to tell this agent what is the tool to call and what is the value of the order ID and what is the value of the email address. So it's literally giving me the information that I need, in this case, the agent man needs to make that call. So it then calls the backend, which is where the store administration or store backend, and says, hey, fetch me order details for this order ID and so on. The store API then returns the order details. It comes back here. Now, the API returns a lot of data. It's not nicely formatted, etc., right? So we send that back to the language models and, hey, look, you asked me for order details, I'm giving it to you. Now the language model has all the information needed to create a nice little response and come back and return it to the end user. Okay, so this is the loop, right? So you ask a question, the agent OS, agent man OS fills in all the additional context plus the instructions for the agent on how to perform, sends it to the language model. The language model decides what to do next, whether it needs a tool or it can answer the question right away. So the part where I said, hey, why should I apply it to the neck? It didn't need any information. It knew that was training said, hey, the reason why you applied neck is because it's thin. So in that case, it didn't need a tool call. It responded directly all the way to the end user. So that's the loop. So agents all run in the same loop over and over again. Okay. Anand.
Yeah, so one question, how does it know when to use the previous context and when I'm asking like completely different question and not use the context? Does it automatically know, or do I need to do anything as a
So this is where agents have gotten smarter, right? 2 years ago, if you saw a demo, only part of it would work. The language models couldn't reason beyond 2 or 3 pieces of information. The way I like to think about it is 2 years ago, ChatGPT, GPT 3.5 and 4.0 were basically elementary school kids, right? They were the 4th and 5th grade level, where if you give them a piece of information, they can only think one step. That's it. 1 or 2 steps behind. That means they can only do order status. The moment you ask product information, they would get confused, right? That's where the hallucination was going on. Now they're at probably about 7th and 8th grade level or 9th grade level. That means they can reason over long number of steps, right? So 5, 6, 7 areas of steps. That means they can deflect back all of it. So AgentsMan agent does not send only part of it. We send the whole thing. We send instructions plus all of that context. The language model then reasons over all that information to identify which it needs to answer that question. Okay. So next year, in fact, you're already seeing newer models called reasoning models can reason over very long trajectory of information. They can process a lot of information and come back with a more accurate answer. Now, how good they are is something that's evolving, but they're called the new class of models that are called reasoning models. They're purpose-built to think very hard. And those are the ones that are getting better and better every day. And so next year, but the problem with these reasoning models, it take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So you can't put that kind of a model in front of the user, but you can do that as an operational model. Anand.
Do you typically call the same LLM, or do you do
Yeah.
agent systems, use the
So-
first LLM for reasoning, and then for after you get the 2 calls, you go into more
Yeah. So
LLMs?
the reason why we don't do multi LLMs is because we feel that if you pick the best LLM and use that, we get better results consistently. If you have to start using different LLMs for different parts of the agent, then you're building a lot of the orchestration code into your own code. And that was something that you would have done a year ago. We don't do that anymore because all that is now deprecated technology. You don't need all that hard work anymore. You language models have figured out phenomenally way on what part of their intelligence they use for what different types of tasks. So you just give all of it to the language model. Now that said, we only use the best models out of the box. We don't use the low-end models, which don't need that kind of. In that case, if you're using one of the smaller models, yeah, you have to use it for certain tasks, a smaller model for this and a model for another, etc. Okay, so let's move on. So let's think about before we get into the language of AgentMan. I want to think about we're already at 1 hour into it, so I want to get through it. Is what are the key components of an agent? Okay, so as humans, when we're given a project, what do? We take the project, break it down to smaller parts, and go accomplish each one separately, right? So we create logical tasks, and then we say, for this task, I'm going to do this, etc. And the task is then broken down to steps. And in order to perform a step, you do certain things. That's how agents are built. They're decomposed into tasks, and each task is decomposed further into steps. And in order to accomplish those things, you have some APIs called tools. You need to store some values in between because you're getting order ID, email, etc. So you store them in variables. And then you move across different tasks using what is called orchestration, right? So if you have multiple tasks, available appointments, collect and confirm, etc., they're all orchestrated together, right? So that's basically the how agents are built in general. Now, every agent starts with a goal. That means if you want to restrict an agent to perform just that and nothing else, you give it a goal and say, you're going to do this one and nothing else. Okay. What that is. So in chain of agents, chain of agents is the language that powers AgentMan. We have each task is defined using a name, right? A task has a name, get product details. In this case, and then each of these tasks have steps within them. If the user asks questions about a specific product, call a tool called fetch product details with the argument product name, right? So that's it. And it goes and finds out, calls fetch product details, gets the details and responds. If the user asks additional information, for example, how to use it, reviews, FAQs, etc., call fetch product meta fields. So it is distinguishing between the two, right? With product ID and include the results in the response, right? So that's basically the two set of instructions to get the product details. Now, we store when you collect information from the user or when you get information from the back and you want to store it for later use, you use variables, and the variables start with dollar and a variable name, right? So that's how we distinguish between English and a variable name. So you store information saying dollar order ID and reference it at some other point. You can branch. So when you think about tasks and you decompose tasks, you can branch from one task to another. So instead of writing all of it into one single large task, you can decompose into multiple tasks and reuse the task across different paths. In this case, this is a welcome task, which is basically saying if it's product details, go to get product details task. If it means order status, go check order status, and so on. So this is the menu that you saw when you said hello in Skintastic, you saw that menu that came up the first time. That's how this is displayed. So we saw how in instructions, if the user requests additional information, call $tool. That's how we reference tools within the language. So in summary, you have variables, tasks, and tools. And that's the only primitives we introduced into the language, into the English language. And everything else is English. It's like as if you're writing a requirements document for a developer. Okay. Right. So we have another field called additional instructions when you're building an agent. This gives you a goal defines at a high level what needs to be done, right? You are a shopping assistant designed to assist users. In your additional instructions, you can give things like, hey, whenever you want to check an order ID, you always have to ask for email, right? So these are global instructions that are applicable across all the tasks. You can say the main task is to facilitate interaction around product details. When responding to product-related questions, give concise and friendly descriptions. Do not be wordy. Right? Do not try to go on and on and on. At any time, if the customer has done, you can do a CSAT on it. Right? So if you remember this particular agent here, at the end of it, it said, "I'm sorry for any according to our policy, blah blah blah. Is there anything I can help you?" No, that is all. So you'll come back and ask me to rate it, right? Says, thank you for reaching out. Before you go, could you please rate this conversation? And if I say 1, it'll say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Can you tell me why? Now, this is a task on its own. So if you go back to our session here, anytime during this conversation, the user says they don't need any more help or say goodbye, go to this tab. And we will see all that in our agent in a second. Okay? So that's how you take an agent, you create a goal, you create additional instructions, you decompose into tasks. Tasks are in English. And then whenever you want to call a tool, you say which tool to call. If you want to store values, you use variables. If you want to branch, you go across tasks. Okay. Do you guys follow any questions around this? Because these are the fundamental building blocks.
Yes. I have a couple of questions, but go ahead. Somebody's asking.
Yeah. So a couple that come to mind. One, this looks almost too good to be true. I'm just curious. You put all these things in. Where do you see the agent getting stumped? Does this happen? Like, okay, you have the order number. It follows all of these nice little these lines of thinking. You've laid out all this infrastructure in the back end, so it knows to go and what to do.
Yeah.
But like,
where does it fall apart, right? So what we've done is this. So by the way, Google has a product called Vertex AI Agents.
Right.
Right. It is a similar language they have. What they don't do and what we do differently is this. We tell what tool to call in the instructions right here. We say, if user requests additional information, call this tool. Okay. And the reason we do that, if you look at the examples here, you see here that the name of this tool is fetch product details, and this is fetch product meta fields. In Shopify world, they are actually two different APIs, and they have different purpose. That's why they're named that way.
Okay.
Today's language models will start to hallucinate if you don't point out which APIs to call after 7 or 8 APIs are given. So if you build a Vertex AI agent, the same thing in Vertex AI agent, after 8 or 9 such tools are given, it'll start to get confused which one to use. Because the tools tend to start to have similar names and doesn't know which one to use when. So to your point, Dale, is that when you see, it doesn't mean that in Agent Man you have to specify it. We encourage that you specify the tool to use, especially when it's hard to distinguish which one is which. Okay. So that gives deterministic results as opposed to, it works most of the time results.
Okay.
Prem?
Yeah, Prasad, real quick. So in this example, this is excellent what you're showing. So this is the equivalent of no code, right? That is, I'm not writing code, but I have to specify which API calls to make.
Yeah.
Correct? Sorry. You there, Prasad?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. What I was asking is that when we develop our own agent, which is no code, but this is the code we are writing, or this is the English language with API calls you're making, or you're just describing what happens behind the scene.
Yeah, it is what you're writing.
Okay. All right.
So let's do this. Let's go ahead, jump into, you guys, I'm assuming you all signed up for the account. You're in, right?
Yep. I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Let's build an agent. Okay. We're way more than an hour. I hoped we were doing this earlier. So you should be on the welcome screen once you're logged in. There are 3 ways you can build agents in Agent Man. Okay, you always have to have 3, right? So if you could scroll here, we have a number of templates. They're called prompts. Prompts that you can use to build an agent. Okay, one inspiration. What we're going to do is you see this one here, Shopify Sales and Support Agent. Click on this one. Okay, so to your question, if you didn't click this one, you will say, describe it here. Build me an agent that does A, B, and C.
Sorry, is it possible for you not to do a Shopify one?
You can do, there are many options.
Oh, I thought you were going to go through another one because we just saw that work really well.
So yeah, so the reason is that we have ready-made tools for it. You can test the whole bit out. Once you get through it, by the end of it, maybe end of today, you can start thinking about building your own agent. That's not a Shopify agent.
Okay.
How do you get to this page, Prasad?
So when you log in,
Yeah.
you're here, right?
Yeah.
You scroll down.
Oh, I just scroll down.
There's a question.
Priya?
Yeah, so actually it's not a question from the content, but just because I need to step out. Is it going to be uploaded, the recording and the slides?
Yeah. I will share the recording from today. Maybe by end of day today or tomorrow morning, you'll get it. So if you're missing part of it, I encourage you to go watch the video, use that to build the agent so that you're prepared for the next class.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Thank you so much.
Can
So
you
I'm
share the
going to-
link to the slide right now?
Sure. That also, I was going to put this as a PDF. Hold on. Can you wait or something that you need right now?
Yeah, we can wait.
Let me go back to Studio. So you can so we have what is called a Dugent. Dugent is an agent assistant that builds agents for you, right? So you can describe what kind of an agent you want and go build it. And the way you say, build me an agent that scans resumes or scans job descriptions and tells me if the right job description or not, right? It goes and builds all that, right? So you can do all those things here and we'll build the agent for you so that you don't even have to know how to write those instructions that we saw. Okay. So I'm going to build this agent, or build a shopping agent that helps customers with order details, order issues, exchanges, product support. So it's 5 different tasks, complicated agent, right? So you're going to do all that. You may want to, you can always pick these 3, but I encourage you to stay with this one. Okay. In the additional instructions, I'm saying when applicable, the agent should ask for order ID. You should retrieve order history. The agent should offer the various options, and depending on the option, ask for more information. I'm also giving it names of tools. By the way, I don't have to, but I'm giving it names of tools. If I don't give it the names of tools, it will make up names of the tools. And at some point, you replace those made up names with the real names. But to make it easier to do a demo, we just gave the names of the tools in here. So, and the names of the tools are nothing but just a simple name, the description. And I'm going to I got tired of coming up with names, so I said, let me use an agent to build my names for me. So I'm gonna say Shopify Class Assistant. Okay. Now, this is where we use an agent, build an agent, right? So it goes and takes about 40 seconds to build your agent. And then the 40 seconds, you'll be able to test the agent. Okay. So go ahead and do what I'm doing.
Quick question, Prasad. Last night, I cheated and tried to create an agent a little early just to see what this is like. And I had entered in the prompt to create a travel agent.
Yeah.
Went a few steps in. It was really dumb because it told me, congrats, your tickets have been booked. And I was like, what tickets? So I don't know what happens there and something, but we can discuss that further as you go.
That is the perfect setting for my next topic.
Okay.
So we're gonna test it. We built the agent. I'm like, hey, I didn't connect to a Shopify store, but I'm building an agent here. So what we've done is our agent OS creates the tools in a synthetic form, like a fake data or mock data, right? To facilitate quick agent testing. We call them synthetic tools. Okay. So when I say hello, it'll come back and say, hey, how can I help you? I say, what is the order status? On anything. I can literally pick any number, random number. The synthetic tool will go and actually, could you please confirm? Yeah, it is the right one. Right? It will go make up that data and respond. And you can see here, it says product ID XYZ quantity 2. How do I know it made up that data? If you click here, there's a switch called tool calls. It is calling this tool called fetch order details, which is a synthetic tool. That tool came back with fake data, right? You remember this particular diagram? The agent called the language model. The language model says, hey, fetch order details is what we need to call, right? So let me go back to my screen here. So fetch order details is what the language model said, call this. Our agent OS then calls this synthetic tool. The synthetic tool returns some dummy data. This dummy data then was sent back to the language model. The language model took that dummy data and gave it a nice little formatting and responded with these results.
Quick question. Is dummy data also dynamically generated by by the tooling, or actually the data knows what it needs to add here? For example, since we told it for Shopify, it already had access to the Shopify scheme.
It is specific to industry. So when was it Parul? Parul did the travel agent, it was probably giving travel data. Right? That's why you thought it was real.
It essentially gave me an example listing of a perfect condo in Portugal with the price, etc., etc. And it said that my flights were booked. And I was like, what flights are these? And they were like, don't worry, it's booked, without showing me any flights.
So making up the tool then, Prasad, the tool is also simulated.
Yes, totally. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we do. There's a synthetic tool to help you test very quickly. So we have what is called a synthetic tool. Tools that are generated to facilitate rapid agent building, and they have this format. Okay. So tool to handle the exchange process for products, let's say, they have a description called input and output. And this is what we use. We use language models to generate synthetic data. And we tell the language model which industry, what type of tool it is, what information it's looking for. And the language models will dynamically generate that fake data and respond.
So this is like a sandbox.
The sandbox, but yeah, exactly. Sandbox is a good way to think about it. But sandbox typically tends to have the real data, but here it is more of a made-up sandbox where you're testing within the made-up sandbox. The reason we chose this approach is because when you're building agents, a lot of times you get to a certain place and you're stuck because you don't have the APIs. You've talked to a developer, etc. This actually takes away a lot of that waiting period. And the second thing we have seen in our own research is that a lot of times it's the flow, it's the conversation you have to nailing down. So by creating synthetic tools, you're facilitating, you're improving the conversation, you're figuring out where exactly it needs to be changed, the what response to get. All that you do that independently of the APIs.
No.
And once you're ready, you just drop in the APIs and start working, right? So that's that we decoupled the agent building experience from agent tuning.
Prasad?
Sure.
Prasad?
Yes, Prem.
Yeah, so real quick, in this synthetic data or information that you're creating to speed the testing, now it was, if that was an application saying I want to scan resumes and then figure out, then you would have some synthetic resumes, right?
Yeah. So so how is the synthetic data being generated, right?
Yeah.
We rely on a language model to generate synthetic data for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have unlimited numbers, right? So you will see this in how was DeepSeek trained at you probably heard of DeepSeek.
Yeah.
If you have not heard about DeepSeek, at least you have felt it in your stock portfolio at the beginning of this. Right. So DeepSeek was trained on synthetic data generated on OpenAI.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is called distilling. They took OpenAI's best models, generated the training data, and then went and trained at Sheep, the DeepSeek model.
So it was near synthetic, near accurate or real data. But now let me ask you the question. Let's say I had something that's I wanted to actually test without going out to an API call, but I'm just making it up, but let's say I had an Excel spreadsheet that I wanted it to read from the information. Then I can test it by saying, go to this Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, you should be able to create a synthetic tool that says, hey, look, you will assume it's a synthetic, it has A, B, and C columns.
Yes.
Values. Yeah, it will do all that. And we'll see that in a short order.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So, by the way, if you click on Go to Agent, now your agent is built, right? So what we are looking at is the agent editor here. Let's look at what are all the different tabs. We'll only look at some of them and we'll hold off on the rest for later. Okay. The first tab is goal and guardrails, where you specify the name. In this case, the goal is assist customers with order details, order issues. So the reason you specify goal is to limit what the agent can do. If you don't give a goal, the agent will feel like, hey, I'm goalless. I can do pretty much anything. And the last thing you want is an agent running around wild, doing all kinds of things with customers and hallucinating. Okay. The other thing is the agent will interact with customers, provide information and support related to orders, etc. Right. So here is where you could add an instruction saying you should always ask for email to verify an order. Guardrails are always important to put in. These are the default guardrails you put in, and depending on industry, you may put more guardrails. Ensure customer data privacy, confirm actions with customer for proceeding, provide clear instruction information. And then you can change the tone depending on your brand. You can say, be friendly and quirky in your responses. Right? So now the responses will be more quirky and fun, right? So I would say funny and quirky. So, and the response, the style, the tone will change. So this is the first page, right? This is a high-level behavior of your agent. Now, agent-specific behavior is divided into tasks, and the tasks are in the tasks tab. And each of these, right? The welcome, we saw, say hello and welcome the user, shopping assistant, if the customer selects order details, go to this task. If it's order issues, go to this one, etc. In order details, we say prompt the customer to provide the order number and store it in order number. Call fetch order details with order number to retrieve. Right. So this is all ready to go out of the box. So by the way, you can build any agent, not just e-commerce agent, and you will get these instructions. May not be perfect. This is where you start to iterate and improve it. And I'll show you the next set of tools that you will do. And do this all with me. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I want to improve order details to also prompt for email. Okay. Because we want that. So you see the little button you call improve with AI. You guys seeing this? Let me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Improve it with AI. All right.
So click on it. Now, this is where we get what is called Dugent. Dugent is our assistant that pops in from the right, and it's working on this particular task, order details.
Sorry, how did you get to that point again?
So each task has a little button called Improve with AI next to the name. So here, if you see, let me scroll, close everything. You see this button here called Improve with AI? Dale, you found it?
Dale, you're muted, by the way.
I didn't, but I also went and checked out the Aura one. I don't know if that makes a difference.
No, they're all the same. So everybody, all the tooling is the same. Improve with AI. So you click on Improve with AI, that's when it pops up, right? What it's doing is setting up the context here. If you look at the bottom, right? It says improving the task order details. So now it knows which it needs to improve. And I'm going to say also accept email to verify the order. So this is now using an agent to improve the agent, right? So it said, okay, I've taken the instructions, I'm going to revise it and add a new step called prompt the customer to provide their email address. And I'll keep the rest the same. Okay. Once you have that, you press apply. Now the instructions have changed. So the reason we built an assistant is because one of the things I learned when I was at Salesforce, people were struggling to write good prompts. Prompt engineering is something that comes naturally to most people, right? And it's no fault of theirs because we have untrained people from writing good English. So over the years, because we give them software, you click, 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 and done. So we built an agent that writes effective prompts, which is what this is. And it's now created that prompt, it's applied it. And you can close this out here. You can save it. And then you can test it and say clear and say hello. What is the order status on 1005, right? This time it's going to prompt me for email. Say, could you please provide me the email address? So your very quick order, you went from just asking for order ID to asking for email as well. Okay. So this is how you go from using these improve buttons. You can ask it to do all kinds of things. So now,
can you? I'm sorry, I'm just very curious. What if your model is not GPT-4?
You can pick anything. Yeah. Now, you can pick whatever you want, but the behavior may be inconsistent because some of these DeepSeek, this is a DeepSeek version 3 and R1 models don't work very well. Llama models are not that great either. So
open source models are not as good. Is that what you're?
Yeah. So Gemini models, the newer models are actually pretty good. Anthropic models and OpenAI models are the ones. So I would say pick one of those and pick the better ones. And then once you have it working, then you can try out a less, I would say, a smaller model, a cheaper model, etc. But the cost of inference is so cheap, we don't even bother trying to steer you or a cheaper model. So, but we just by the way, until today, you didn't have an option to select a model. We just launched it. So that's why the beta tag is here. You can see, or you can go and hover over each model and understand what each model is capable of.
Yeah.
Right. And then use it. But we're going to we're testing Gemini models. At some point, we're going to make Gemini models our default models because they're cheaper and we can give more to the users with Gemini.
Hey, Prasad.
Yes.
Actually, how does it really matter? When we're building an agent for a customer, they don't care what model we are using, right? We're just giving them
Yeah,
the the
exactly.
the grayed out result. It doesn't matter what the ingredients are, right?
Exactly. Yeah, nobody. So it's this, right? So we are in such early parts of the technology that everybody's wants to know every little thing. But once you tell people, hey, look, our agents will work for you, they
Correct.
don't care. They just want you to them to work. That's why we pick the best model. We
Yeah.
offer it out of the box. For only now we have, in fact, the idea of selecting a model is not going to be available on the low end plans. It's only available in the high end plans. So the people who want more nuanced control will get it.
Yeah. And we don't even know the difference at this point at my level, so it's okay.
I don't know the difference most of the time. So
Yeah.
if you ask me the difference between OpenAI 4.0 and Anthropic 3.7 and Gemini 2.0, I don't know, to be honest. I have to test it out. So it just doesn't make sense. So it is nature. Melinda and Sumit.
Melinda, do you want to go?
Yeah, hey, just so I played around and said, oh, if you can't find the order number, right? I did order details. If you can't find the order number, ask for an email, look up recent orders, and then I did it, looked in preview agent, and then I previewed, and it didn't work great. So you just kind of experiment around and see. Now I'm trying again. And now it's working on the second try. So I guess I use different words.
There's one thing which we didn't do. Our tool only accepts order ID, right? Because that's how we built. So we changed the task, but we didn't improve the tool. So this is where we're going to say, improve this tool.
Right. It worked. I just put in ask for email, and if they don't have the order number, you can find their recent orders. So yeah.
Email.
Yeah.
So Prem had asked, hey, can I create a synthetic tool that simulates reading a spreadsheet? And this is what this is, right? I'm literally going to, if you see on the left side, the input is order number only. I'm going to say, hey, revise the synthetic tool to also accept email. So it's come back and says, now I have a new version of synthetic tool that accepts both, and it turns this. I can also tell what the output should be. Say, also revise the output to return Mac and iPhones as products. So this is the synthetic data generation we're talking about. So I can ask it to, be a store, right? So now I've got my synthetic data tool generator. I save that in here. Now it's applied. You can see here. I'm going to close this out, save it again, because now we got to reset the conversation. I'm going to say, hello, what is the order status on 1005? It's asking for email and say hello@me.com. I just made up. So this time it's going to come back and give me that particular data, right? So it's giving noise canceling headphones, etc., MacBook, and so on, right? So at least it's within that domain of technology. So Sumit.
Yes, two quick questions. First thing, you said that some of the models work well, some of the models does not work well. Is there a way to fine-tune the model on your customer data?
You can, but we don't support fine-tuned models.
Okay, so that was one. The second one was, I see that, for example, we are fetching multiple order details, right? What if I want to do a custom operation on top of the details that I'm fetching? For example, fetch me total number of items in the order, or fetch me total, like what was the sum of the total for this particular orders. If we are purely relying on LLMs, like based on like best to my knowledge, many of the AI models struggle to do simple mathematical operations. Like they just mess up a bit.
So it depends on the model, right? So GPT-4o models do pretty good math and reasoning because 4.0, not 4.0. 4.0 models are very middle school math. School math is what you need. But if you want advanced math,
I have a 2-hour
analyst step math, then that's when you would just use a tool, right? You use an analysis tool, We say, hey, look, they take this data, analyze the data, come back with a question and do it, right? You build that in the form of a mathematical tool.
Oh, okay. So basically, we need to create another API that we need to connect with the agent as compared to basically having a shortcut here.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. There are Wolfram Alpha, is a company where you can get APIs for mathematics, right? So
Okay.
you can do really complex mathematical stuff,
Mhm.
they give it to you as an API, which you can then build into your tool, right? You just drop in the API and we'll get to that part. And this is the part that I want us to get through today. So,
Mhm.
what we've done so far is we built an agent, generated an agent, revised an agent, the tasks, and revised a synthetic tool, right? So what next, right? Now we can go and add a new task, right? And say, create me, now let's add a task, right? So create with AI. I'm going to name is measure CSAT, right? And description is measure CSAT from 1 to 5. And if the value is less than 3, prompt for reason, right? Otherwise, thank them, right? So that's basically you want your task to do. Okay. Go ahead and type this with me, and then it will generate a whole brand new task here, right? So, which is basically prompt the user to rate CSAT. If CSAT score is less than 3, prompt the user for a reason, etc. And I'll apply it. Now I have my tasks here now. Now I created a brand new task, right? So nice how you create brand new tasks, and the same way you can give brand new tools as well, synthetic tools. Anand.
Yeah, so I understand tools, and then for each tool, you tell what the tool does, what the API is, and the parameters are. I don't understand the purpose of tasks.
Okay. So the tasks detail how you want your agent to behave, right? So if you just gave him a tool, the agent wouldn't know when to use the tool, what information the tool needs, in what order that information is collected. So tools don't really have any intelligence built into it. It's the instructions that are providing the intelligence to the agent. Okay. So let me go to illustrate this point, let me go to the agent that is running on the Skintastic store. By the way, you can also go and clone that agent. This is the agent that you see here. If you clone this agent, you get that agent, right? I'm cloning it here. So claim this agent. Look here, search products. Remember we said find me moisturizers? That is a complicated search. Okay, and if people have built search, knows what that is. And these are only the instructions here. So if the user has not asked a search question, prompt the user for what they're looking for. So this is the task. So yeah, I asked for moisturizers. The search returns valid values, return results has this format, right? There's an example. For all the scenarios below, use this tool called search tools. Now, one of the things that I didn't demo is here. In fact, I can go back and say, hey, find me a soap that goes with the moisturizer. This is what we call as related search. So it goes and finds the soap, then it looks for the moisturizers and combine and triangulates the ingredients and comes back and says, I recommend the Clean Impact Body Scrub and Cleansing Bar to complement your Retinol moisturizer. And here is why, right? An efficient 3-in-1 daily bar soap and so on. This is what is called a related search. Hey, find me products that relate to product B. And so how do we do it? If we look at our agent, it says if the user is asking about a product A related to another product B, first get the product B details by calling search. That's the tool. Then search for product A and compare both of them and return the top 3 products that match the user is asking for. Explain why the recommended products are related to product B. Now, if I didn't have these instructions, it wouldn't know what to do in terms of search. So that's why we need the instruction. Instructions is what drives an agent. The tools are just essential things, but not the things today. Right? So
Prasad, can I ask you a quick question? Yes.
yeah, please. Yeah.
So I see how you updated the task. Can you undo that?
We don't have save points here where you can go roll back. Right. So what I encourage you is you see this button in the top right corner called download.
Mhm.
That's how you back up an agent. If you download it, it downloads the agent into a file, JSON file, and then you can come here and upload it to create a new version of it.
So it will skip the last task that you've done because you haven't saved it?
Sorry, come again?
I was just thinking, because as I was messing around with this, I just wanted to see, okay, if someone asks for hard data, just say
Yeah.
give me your email. That's not what I really want to have happen, but I was curious. But
No,
before
I can always remove this, right? I can always delete it manually. But if you want to undo and go back to a previous version, we don't have version control.
you do have version control, but when you hit apply, you could see where it updated.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you just delete the steps.
I just delete the ones because I knew what the steps were, right? Or I can come back. I added this new task called measure CSAT. I can always delete it. But if I'm making a lot of changes, what I tend to do is I back it up and then go and create a new version of it to test it out, right? So now at some point we'll probably introduce version control, but with every new feature it increases complexity, right? Not everybody understands version control, revision control of this. So it's the future. So I want the last thing that I want to do with you guys for the day is let's make this work with real tools. Okay, because that's the whole point, right? So we are using all synthetic tools here that have written policy it's going to make up. Until today, you had to actually take the APIs and then go build it. And I'm going to show you what that feels like before we show the easy way to do it. So there is this document that I'm going to share shortly. Okay, I'm going to put this in the link here. So click on it. In here, you will see for example, if I want to create a tool called get current date time, which goes, by the way, language models do not know what the date and time is because they're not connected to the internet. They just send in a box they're running, right? So in order to return policy, you need to know what is today's date and time. So you have to give that knowledge to the agent. So we introduce what is called get current date and time, which goes and pulls the real date and time for a time zone and returns it. So the agent will always be able to get the current date and time to handle return policy questions. Okay, so this is the API to get the current date and time. So what we're doing is that you literally had to copy this URL. So I have to go and say, hey, create me, I literally copy this text, come here to my Shopify class agent, go to tools, click here and see here, create with AI HTTP tool. When I select that, it's asking me, hey, you want to create a HTTP tool. What is the name? What is the description? What is the API? What kind of method? And this for people who understand what APIs are. But for those who doesn't, just copy paste what we gave, right? Here, and says this is the current date and time, returns the date and time example. I'm going to remove this hard-coded one, post param, etc. And this actually creates a tool, a real tool in our format, right? So authentication and handling, no, all good. I don't need to. So it doesn't need rate limits, authentication, etc. So it came up with this entire spec. This is called a tool spec. Our agents work with these tools. And by the way, all agentic frameworks have some version of this. So I'm going to apply this. Now I have a real tool called HTTP tool. And it's in this format. This is a format that we came up with to define what a tool looks like. It has a name, the protocol, the description. It accepts arguments, which is a time zone. And the format is basically America, Los Angeles. And then it's going to then call this cloud function to calculate or get the actual date time for the time zone. And it'll respond with that. Okay. Let's test this out here. And I can say, what is the time in Boston? Right. So it says 9:43, March 27th. So it called this tool, and I know it called this tool is because you see the switch here? That basically identified this tool and so on. So this was until a couple of days ago, where you had to copy paste. In fact, if you want to use your own APIs, you can literally take that APIs and drop it into Dugent and ask it to create a tool. And it will create the tools for you, so you don't have to learn the format. Okay. Now, we're now introducing something called library. You don't have to, we're starting to create ready-made tools that you can add from the library. One of them is get current date time. So I just add that, right? You have now send email, right? You can ask your agent to send an email at some point, and it'll send it there, and web search. So now you can search the web with this tool, right? So I just added all these tools here. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to save. I'm going to say, and find me, let's see, what can I search? Find me hotels in San Diego. Oh, so okay, here. I am planning a party for find me balloons for a Wicked theme party. So it's going to use the web search tool to search the web and come back. Okay. Auto so it called web search. And this is the data. By the way, it's searching Google, using Google under the covers. Right, all the result. And it summarized it in this fashion. And so I'm going to hide this second here. So planning a Wicked theme party, let's make it wickedly awesome. Bonjour Fête is one of our customers, by the way. They do Wicked theme parties. Offers a wide range of Wicked theme party supplies to bring out your inner, etc., etc. So it came literally from the web. So now with the web search tool, you can make your agents even more intelligent. So we've seen get current date time in web search. Okay. So now let's go and replace some of the synthetic tools with Shopify tools. Okay. We have a collection of Shopify tools. Here, these are, by the way, reason we have two sets of tools is because the second one is something we are testing. These are brand new tools, which has a whole collection of a lot more tools here. We're still testing it, so sometimes they may not work. So we know that these work very well. I can say fetch product details I can add, and I fetch order details, fetch meta fields.
Prasad?
More details, yes.
Essentially, tools are API calls, right?
Yes,
okay.
They are. At a primitive level, they are, but sometimes they are not as well. And I'll explain in a second. So I did a bunch of these tools. I'm going to delete the ones I don't, the synthetic ones, and save it. When I did this, now let's come and look at the tool, right? Fetch product details. You see there is no URL for the store, and there's no token. So these are what are called placeholders. Okay. This is how we create across all these tools. There's a placeholder. So you can get skintastic.shops, store URL, and token, and replace it here. This is called, programmers know this, we create environment values. So I'm going to share that information with you. I think it's there in the README as well. Go to README. If you scroll down, you will find this is the store URL. And I'm going to put that in the chat. And the token.
What is the token? You talk
Token is the access token,
oh
right?
access. Okay, yeah, got
If you don't have a token, it wouldn't know how to access it. You don't have permissions, right? So I'm going
it.
to
Okay.
take this store URL, stick it here, and make sure I copy it correctly, and the access token. This is how I'm setting up the environment, right? So, and save it. I'm going to clear it. So what have I done? I've basically replaced the synthetic tools with real tools by going to library. When I did that, the tool spec had placeholders. These placeholders showed up in this tab called the environment variables, where I substituted those with real values. Right? So this is how we made this agent general purpose, right? This agent now can connect to any store, Shopify store. So I can say, hello, what is the order status on 1005 with email demo at agent and .ai. So you can connect to the store, retrieve the order details. Okay, hello, welcome. It looks like you need help with order. Let me fetch. Oops. Okay, what happened? API invalid key. Okay, let me find a new key. I think that key has been deprecated. So now you ask me what the keys are. So now you know. Without the right key, you may not work. So let me give the right key. And I'm going to paste that key into Zoom as well. So you can use this key instead. So when you're connecting to your own SaaS app, you will get these kind of keys, right? So now I'm going to have to clear all this, save just to be sure, right? And then we'll say, what is the order status on 1005 with email demo at. Okay. Order details, space. So it went and brought the details for me, right? So I'm connected to the store. Anand.
Sorry, so two questions. Why did we start with the synthetic tools? Why didn't we start, directly go to the Shopify tools?
The reason we did this is Shopify, we built our tools, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have tools for every possible SaaS app out there yet.
So if you want to do your custom tool, then you would put.
Yeah. So if you want to connect to Salesforce or HubSpot or Zendesk, we will roll out.
Yeah.
And to, I don't know who asked this question, are APIs same as tools? I think it's Sumit asked maybe. Right. So yes, to a certain point, right? There are certain APIs that you can use directly.
Yeah.
And work. The reason we have Aura Ring tools here, for example, right, add to agent, is when you ask for historical data from Aura, it literally returns 1 megabyte of data. Right? Because if you remember, Aura Ring is literally measuring every few minutes. So it'll return you all the data for last 7 days. And 1 megabyte will fill the entire context window of OpenAI.
Right.
So what we did is we took that API, we created our own API, and we literally strip away a lot of the unnecessary data and give you the essential information.
Okay, got it.
So that's why
you
the
can
proxy.
write a wrapper around the API and do all kind
The
of
other place you will take, you will see is that, hey, when you create a ticket in HubSpot at the end of a support conversation, you have to do two things. You have to go look up if the customer exists. That means you're doing customer lookup. Then if it doesn't exist, you have to create the customer contact and then create the ticket, associate the two, and return. So it's a workflow, like 3 operations in one, right? So you could do 3 calls, or you can create one single tool called create ticket, which does all of it for you.
Got it. Okay. Then
yes,
last question
Sunil.
on the task side. Sorry, if I can finish.
No, please finish. No.
Yeah, just like how we had recommended tools like Shopify and all that. Once you select it's a Shopify assistant, do you also have recommended tasks, like pre-built tasks, or do you usually create this from scratch?
You have to speed because this now becomes specific to your needs, right?
Okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
Quick question, like how do we manage like user level authentication? For example, I wouldn't want someone else to look at my order details, right? We would want it to be like we would basically want it to have restrictions in terms of what it can fetch, like which order it can fetch.
Yeah. So this is where, right? You could say, hey, you know what? Just email and order ID is not enough. I need phone number as well, right? Or you can build a tool which sends a text message to them and they have to repeat it back, right? So I can literally say, here, let's do this. Let's try. Good question. I'm gonna do this. Order details and say improve AI, verify the email by sending a randomly generated code that the user needs to input to the agent, right? So now it's going to revise instructions and say prompt the customer order number, it gets the email, generate a random verification code, store it here, send the verification code to customer using an email service, right? So I'm going to say come back here while that is there. Revise it to use back to tools, add from library, send email. Okay, now I added a tool called send email. So revise it to use the send email tool, which will act tool and the sender name is Prasad, or I would say, Skintastic, because the send email tool expects three things, right? As input, it expects the message from name, etc. So I gave the Skintastic is from name, and with the appropriate subject line. So now it's using the tool, right? So I'm going to apply this. Now it's come back and make sure that it is applied and save it, clear. And now let's test. What is the status of the order 1005? Okay, it's asking, okay, hello, welcome. Email is demo at, okay. It's a challenge. Demo, there's no demo at Agent Man, but it's maybe it will work. But let me give my email, right? But just get the email. So said, great, thanks for sharing your email. Before we proceed, I need to send you a top secret verification code to ensure you are not an evil twin. Because remember, I told you funny and quirky is being hanged out while I send the order code. 1 moment, please, for email. I'm gonna go check my email.
So all of that this like little banter, it's the agent doing that because you told it to be funny.
Yes, funny and quirky, right? So that's basically it's like it didn't really call the tool. I'm still waiting.
But funny, quirky didn't mean foul language. Yeah.
Well, you have to let the AI agent hallucinate also.
Yeah, right. A little bit.
So
Give me
it's
some
like
freedom.
there is some double check email. It did send it. Okay.
Prasad.
But you get the point, right? So this is how you, by the way, this is a brand new tool. I just deployed like 11 o'clock in the night last night. I didn't test it, but
Yeah.
it's how you create that verification loop.
Can I check the verification code?
Very
I'm
good.
really curious what it generated.
What is the verification code? Let's see if it actually tells me. Right, so maybe it's a super secret was 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's not very super. This is where you could call it a service to get the tool, right? So verification code. But you get the gist of it, right? Is how you connect different things to you can connect to Twilio, etc., and to verify and all those things.
And like all of this tooling, like all the things that we are selling on the tooling side that are only available at the backend, right? None of these things are available in the front end to the end user.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly, right. So if you go back to our diagram,
Mhm.
this is basically how you think about it, right? This tool stack, that column is yours.
Okay.
Or the backend. I say agents are only as good as the data and the tools that access that data. Otherwise, agents are dumb, right? They're just making up stuff, right? So you induce intelligence into agents through instructions and the data that powers those instructions and the actions that it can take, right? So tools are really, really important and for agents to work. Otherwise, there's really no value in agent.
Hey, Prasad?
Yes.
Premier. So on this diagram, if you stay on that page, just go back. Yeah, so right from the top, it says format prompt and context and sends it to LLM. It comes back and says generate with a generated response with tool calls. Why does that have to be done? Can't the agent itself do that part, because it's going to immediately go back with an execute to tool call?
So AgentsMan actually should say Agent OS.
Yeah, Agent OS. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
we don't have any reasoning skills.
Ah,
We are relying on the language model to reason over the instructions
okay.
and all the previous conversations to tell us what to do next.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. Okay, and the other point I wanted to just quickly make was that what you were just showing earlier about, you made the change and you saved it in order to see it. I mean, just as a feature, I would say preview without saving could also be a good thing to do. I mean, just try it, and you don't like it, just ignore it,
Yeah,
Don't save
so let me explain some inner workings and hopefully at some point we'll fix it.
Yeah.
What happens is that if it's because this is a problem with single page apps, right? We
Mm.
can, when you save it, it's all in the browser. Until we save it, we don't actually go reinitialize the agent, right? So this goes back to Dale's other point is that, hey, look, if I change instructions and I change my mind, now you automatically saved it. I don't have to wait to go back, right? So there is no version control. So we kind of forcing you to think save as an explicit action to commit your changes.
Got it. Okay. No worries. Yeah, yeah.
So it's fair enough. So we
Yeah.
could always, every character change could reinitialize the agent, but that takes, whenever we reinitialize agents, few things happen.
Yeah, yeah.
The synthetic tools, we actually create those tools on the fly, which involves calling language models to create the tools. This is why it takes a certain amount of effort.
Acha, now I have one question here, which was that in doing so, where is the elements of security taken care of in terms of customers who say, well, how secure is this thing,
I think the definition of security varies, right? So we just talked about how we are protecting the end customer by do some verification code means,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
For most e-commerce, all they ask is order ID and email, right? That usually satisfies. But let's say we go to healthcare.
Yeah, right.
So they probably would require you to verify a PIN, right? A little more intricate information, which you then call. That happens even in a regular app, right? When you put up an app, they'll ask you to do the process, right?
So two-factor kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, two-factor, right? So you could do all those things with an agent because it's just another UI. It's chat conversation as opposed to a form. Now, where is the data being stored is a different question.
Ah.
So that requires, hey, where is it stored today? What's happening to the conversations, etc. And that is the same no matter whether you build it through an agent or non-agent. You still have the same concern. Whatever security governance practices and data governance practices you have in place should also be applied in this world.
Okay, well, okay, that's a bigger topic anyway. But okay, you answered it to some extent for my.
So from our case, we are in the process of getting SOC 2 compliance and so on. So by the end of, let's say today is March, by the end of April, we'll be compliant because it's going very well. And then we'll get audited in 3 months to get the SOC 2 Type 2 in there, plus all the related certifications. That basically assures our customers that we are taking care of the data, we have provided right policies in place, etc. We do store the conversations
Yeah.
so that you can go back and review the conversations and see what to do with it.
Yeah.
Today, it's not in the product, but at some point, it'll be made into the product. So you can see what the conversations are. You can set how long you want to have it, keep it. Maybe it's 5 days, and then delete all old conversations and so on, right? All the retention policies you can set at that point. And different customers will have different needs.
Okay. Is this the right time to ask business-related questions or do it next week?
So before we switch context, because we are on time, I want to set the stage for next week's class.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to summarize, we went through what agents are. We built an agent. We understood what tools are. We looked at memory, right? We looked at tasks. So we did all of that. Under tools, we briefly touched on an HTTP tool because we replaced that with a library. So what I would encourage is go deeper, build some of these tools with the help of Dugent. Explore the library to look for what's there. Think of what agents you can build. And if you have the time, explore this button, calling another agent, an agent calling another agent. You can do that, right? Now you have to build another agent to do it. And it should be, an example would be create an agent that takes entire conversation as input, classifies it, summarizes it, extracts the sentiment of the conversation, and goes and creates a HubSpot ticket.
Wow,
right?
That's beautiful.
And then you can call this from here, right? You can have one for HubSpot, one for Freshdesk, one for Zendesk, and different interfaces. And depending on the customer, you can just pick and choose which agent to call, right? So that's the call an agent. By the way, this also is brand new. It's just yesterday we deployed it. So you can, when you click on it, it shows you all your agents in your system, and you pick that agent and you create the interface to call that agent. Okay.
Quick question. Yeah. Hi, Prasad. So I'm just curious to know, like, what's behind the agent man? Like, which agentic framework are you using in the backend?
So we use LangChain.
Okay.
We built our own framework, agent framework from scratch.
Okay.
Because of the timing, right? So we started this work at the end of October, end of 2023. The frameworks, CrewAI didn't exist. LangGraph had just been released, right? So we use the earliest versions of LangGraph and LangChain, let's say.
Okay.
We have not upgraded the frameworks because we do a lot of the orchestration, synthetic tool generation, all of that ourselves. We built a lot of that, and that gives us a lot of flexibility in how to operate. We continuously go back and look at frameworks out there to see if there's anything better, but we haven't found any. The only one that we may spend some time on is OpenAI's new Agent SDK, but we didn't see anything groundbreaking in there to go and rip apart our agentic framework to replace with that. You can see, right? If you look at the tasks, we do 5 or 6 agentic tasks here.
Yes.
In CrewAI, this is 1,000-line code. It takes 1,000 lines of coding just to write this, right? And deep orchestration and all these things. And when I saw that framework, it is a very short-lived framework. If you're orchestrating in code, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because
Language it should
are
be.
really good at orchestration. Right? So you don't need to orchestrate in code. We just rely on the language models for the orchestration.
Yeah.
So we are in a sense, we are future-proof in a way.
Right.
Follow-up question would be like, how are you executing tasks? Like you have an API framework in the backend, like.
Oh yeah. So in terms of tools, yeah, we built our own tooling framework. So and soon we will be extending that for engineers. There's something called Model Context Protocol that's getting really popular for tooling.
Okay.
With Anthropic came up with its open standard, and OpenAI just adopted it. So we will now build MCP into our tooling. So companies can build MCP servers, and our agents will work
Yeah.
out of the box.
Rather than interacting with REST APIs, you are going to interact with MCPs
Yeah.
directly.
And also the thing that we have not yet built, we just partnered with Postman.
Wow.
So we are the first to get access to all their APIs. So when you go into tool library, you will have an option to create your own tools. Where you will create it, you will search Postman's API library, it gets all the definition and will create a tool for you. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
that part of it, so you will see the building blocks because this is also in beta. We just rolled it out a few days ago. All this starting to add up to the point where between MCP protocol and Postman integration, you will have unlimited number of tools that you interact with very quickly.
For people who like to probably dive a bit deeper into code, is there an option to basically even get into much more complex nuances? For example, say I want to use everything along with basically a backend of RAG. There's already a language model that's working over here. Probably something I want to summarize over the long chain or long history. Use a agentic RAG or something like that.
Yeah. So now we saw what is possible and what you're exposing and what's not possible. And it's a great question. So before I get to answer that, let me share one last thing. As you build an agent, share it with people for testing. Okay. You see the share button? You can literally share it with anybody. Okay. This is how you can get feedback.
Then to build
So
agent for
over the next week,
any agent, or is it
any agent, right? So over the next week, as you're building, if you want to share an agent with me, this is how you share it.
Okay, got it.
It's like a YouTube link, right? So and then it'll work, right? It's unauthenticated, right? It'll work out of the box. This is a screen. It tells me what the agent is supposed to do. Gives me a little bit of the first screen, right? So I can go back and look at it. So in here is also deploy. So if you want to now deploy this agent into the wild, this is what we have. You saw this client in the browser, right? This little widget is an open source library on AgentMan that you can download, put on any website, works with any website, the JavaScript engine, and then you plug in your token and it works, right? So that's one way you can deploy it. Now, we built with conversational agents in mind first. What we are starting to see is a need to build what are called operational agents. So I'll give you an example. We have a customer who's onboarding, we're onboarding them as a support agent, right? They want us to go analyze all the support conversations the last 3 months, about 6,000 of them. Okay, and you want to classify it across 6,000 conversations, build up a sentiment, and identify what is the next best response, and see if that was the right response that the human had already made, because it's human-based conversations. And build training data to then use that for the agent. So now agents that we have on AgentMan can go over few conversations at a time, but you have to summarize, extract information, do the sentiment analysis, next layer. It can all do that with a single agent for one conversation. But you have to do 3,000 of these messages. That means you need a programmatic loop outside of it, like a Python code that iterates through, calls the agent like 3,000 times, collects all of the summaries, and then sends it back to another agent to analyze summaries across the agents, right? We call them agent apps, which will involve programs as well as agents combined to do it. Now, we are at the beginning stages of trying to make that easy to build in a no-code way. And since you asked, I'm going to ask you your feedback, okay? One of the ways we are thinking about it, I don't know if anybody has kids here, and if those kids have used what is called Scratch programming. You guys familiar with Scratch? Okay. Or Blockly?
Yes. I think
Google
so.
has
My
Blockly, right?
grandkids do it. Yeah.
So what this does is introduces in a very user-friendly way the notion of a control, for loop, while loop, and calling different objects, right? Visual way. Now, we don't want intimidated people saying, write Python code and JavaScript code. We want to introduce this where each of this block, when you see a message, call an agent, get this one, right? And then you iterate over it. So you're building your control flow, your entire application or a program through this method, and then go build it. Now, this is quite accessible, but we feel it may be too childish. I don't know how you guys feel about it. If let's say we build an interface like this, would you use it?
I guess it depends on the kind of acumen, right? For example, at times I find it much easier to just write a Python code as compared to having to play with the UI and then trying to do something which I find very easy to doable in code. But probably because I'm coming from a coding background. So
Yeah, I would say it depends on your objective.
Yeah.
If your objective is to take the technically inclined and just give them access very quickly and go, then that's fine. If the objective is scale and reach, then this may be something that the visual aid obviously will work, and then you'll democratize access.
Yeah,
faster.
Our objective is the latter, right? We're catering to 200 million small to medium-sized businesses, is to provide this kind of interface. Now, to Sumit's point, you will not be writing from scratch. You'll be having code generators that will generate this entire thing. You'll just say, hey, I need to do A, B, and C. You'll generate all of it, and you'll tweak it, and it translates it into Python or JavaScript to run it at the end of the day. It's the same thing, but you now have a visual interface that is more accessible.
Oh, okay. I guess in that way, like if I'm looking for advanced functionalities, I would probably use something like Cloud to basically create the initial set of code that I need. But I guess what would be really useful is being able to directly alter that code at the end of the day. I guess so you can have both the workflow, something that makes it easy for someone. But I guess at the end of the day, if the code is going to get compiled or basically get converted to a Python or JavaScript code, I guess just the sheer ability to edit that raw code directly can simplify life for probably power users or
Totally. I mean, definitely something that we may do in the future, but for now, at least, that's not our focus. Our focus is to expand the capabilities to do more of these agentic tasks, and going from a conversational agent to an operational agent. An operational agent operates over large volumes of data, and in that world, you're combining deterministic programming elements with non-deterministic agents to process information. So, and we've been trying to think through how we can make that process easy. Because today you can write a Python program, call agents all day long. We have APIs, right? You build an agent and then you call that agent through an API and you get back responses. It's just APIs, right?
I guess one thing that gets missing is like, I guess the experience that you are providing for a backend is completely like serverless, right? I don't have to have my own server. But if I have to basically just start my server for doing some really small task, that is where I guess it makes it tricky for me, because then I have to start like, for example, I was talking about like just having a summation operation, right? And if I'm just doing something like that, I mean, for that I have to write a really say a cloud function. Then I guess that is where I guess things get a bit tricky.
So that's the other place, right? So one of the things we've been thinking about is, should we provide an ability to execute code that is either generated or you provide as a tool, right? You say, hey, look, this is a bunch of code. Can you run it as a tool?
Yeah, exactly. Like a Python code or a Go code or Rust. I guess you can start with a small framework.
So it's something that we need to get to, but we have not had a chance to code execution in the fly because of whom we target. We're not there yet. Okay, so Mani has his hand for a while, unless he left. I think Mani has left. Sorry, Mani, if you're still there. Okay. All right. So for next week, I'm hoping you have enough information to build your own agent. And please sign up for circle.so. We got an invitation. I'll be there. If I'm not there, just use my handle and ping me. I will jump in and answer questions and steer you away because there's a lot of stuff that went in. I will also post, I'll send out the video via email, the recorded video, as well as post it in there. So if you have questions, you can go back and reference the video at various points. It's something that people have said has been really useful because in 2 hours, we went through a lot of material. It'll be a good way to go back and reference it. So I'm hoping you'll have some great agents that you will build for demo in the following week.
Sure. Prasad, we did not receive an email for the Zoom link. So for the next call, how would it be communicated with?
Are you sure? Were you registered and your email was available, right, Hitesh?
Yes, I registered through the BITS alumni.
Because let me confirm. Okay, one
So
second.
I think Hitesh, it is. I mean, I also registered the same way. So there's a thing that says Zoom download instructions. I think that's what tripped me as well. I was like, oh, I don't need instructions, but that was actually the Zoom meeting link.
So did you get an email from me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sent that on Monday night.
Right.
Yeah.
I did. I used that one. Yeah.
In that it says, hey, pre-workshop must do plus Zoom link.
Yeah.
It had a video link. It had a Zoom link. Get that?
Yeah, I also got that.
Will that be the same link for next week?
Yeah, it'll be same one for Monday evening. We have same time, 5 to 7, 5 to 6, and then on Thursday, I will send another email with the recording with all the details again, so that you won't miss it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much. This is remarkable. Yeah.
So yeah, please, as you're building, if you have any feedback and you see any issues, please let me know. Prasad@agentman.ai, my email. And if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts or any ideas of an agent, how we want to build it, you may not get through all of it over the next week, but at least you will start building some of this out, and happy to spend some time discussing that with you guys. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
This is Yash. Do you have a couple of minutes?
Sure. Yeah.
So if I'm thinking of AgentMan, it comes across to me like it's a platform to build agents that, for example, like say, I have a website in Shopify as a SMB, and I want to start making agents available to my customers, then I would use AgentMan to build that.
Say that again.
Say I'm a business owner, a small business owner, and I have a Shopify website, and I'm trying to build agents as a business so that my customers can have these agentic experiences, right? So in that case, would I leverage AgentMan as a platform to do that?
Yeah. So what we are seeing are developer shops that support Shopify customers and BigCommerce customers are starting to build agents with us, and we'll be in fact offering more and more courses to them to help build out agents, which then they will go build for their customers, right? So that's basically, and this will expand beyond e-commerce in the future as to other customers as well, because the SaaS stack, the number of SaaS apps that small businesses use are much smaller. So for example, Shopify customers on general use 5 SaaS applications.
Right.
So you can build agents that you build for one customer, you can deploy to 1,000 of them. And small businesses tend not to customize SaaS applications. So that means their APIs for one will work for others. But let's say if you go to an enterprise and they're using Salesforce, their implementation of Salesforce will be very different from a different enterprise.
Right.
Right. So then your agent, a sales agent that works for enterprise A will not work out of the box with enterprise B. It needs customization and so on. So now you have 2 different agents, not the same agent. Right. Now that is a solution, not a product. So to your question, yes, is the short answer, but that's the more detailed version.
And just playing it back, why wouldn't Shopify build a platform to create the same agents for me if I am a small business? Why should I go through like a separate platform like Agent Man?
So it's a good question. I can only hypothesize, right? If you think strategically, Shopify is successful because of its ecosystem.
Mhm.
Ecosystem of two types of things. One is about 3,500 developer shops that support, or agencies we call them,
Right.
plus thousands of applications that run on their marketplace that people install. On average, a Shopify store owner installs 6 to 7 applications. Okay, so now these applications are marketing applications, support applications, etc. Right? So for the same reason, Shopify has not built their own marketing app, built their own support app, etc. Because they want the ecosystem thrive. They stayed away from it. Right?
Got it.
Now, let's say they build agents now. They have to build integrations with every possible third-party player. Right?
Mhm.
If they can pick and choose 5 of in each vertical, but now you're picking winners and losers in your ecosystem. Right? You're basically killing the ecosystem that you made you successful.
Understood.
So strategically, if I were Shopify, I would stay away from that and let the ecosystem do all the heavy lifting in terms of integrations, etc. Now, there are certain parts of the Shopify experience Shopify should do. For example, product information generation, product image generation, product metadata, those things that they're already doing and they should be doing it.
Understood. Thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. Any other question?
I'm just really curious whether you're seeing the biggest opportunity at the enterprise level or the SMB level.
It depends how you define the opportunity. So if you say, hey, it's money wise today, how much money you can make immediately, it's enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you in the enterprise world, you're selling statement of work, SOWs. And SOWs go in 50,000 to 500,000, right? I have friends at Distill, they charge 2 million, 3 million per project, right? So Distill.ai. But the problem is they're all consulting firms.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do each project, they have to go hire people to implementation because the implementation is 6 months long and so on, right? So and Google probably has going through the same thing, right? So with Google, you have customer engineers that will work with the customer to build out agents or will work with third parties to help them build agents, right? There's a whole ecosystem built around these things. But we didn't want to do that part because I built a very successful consulting business from 2000 to 2007 before I went to Wharton, right? And we provide high-end technology consulting. What happened by the year 5? We started with $300 an hour consulting. We're down to 150 because everybody in the world started to offer the same service for far less.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening at a very accelerated pace in agents. Last year, it would take $500,000 to build the same agent. Now people are charging 50,000. Right?
This is why I love your Scratch example, because it makes me think a lot about the complicated nature, for example, of the Google ad stack and how Facebook made it very simple with the SMBs, and they're entrenched and they've got runway there that it's hard to back into because of how simple it is. So many SMBs have a hard time. They just look at it and they're going to run away when they see the code. If you make it that simple, then it really feels like it's a market that it makes for what seems like a very valuable product.
Yeah. So yeah, it is a very hard thing for us. We take enterprise grade technology and we have to really simplify it, but at the same time, not too simple that it only works in certain cases. Yeah, it is simple and at the same time broad enough. So that's the reason why we're being extremely deliberate about choices we make, what we introduce. In fact, the model tab where you can select a model is not going to be available out of the box to everybody. Not because we don't want to give it, it's just too overwhelming to pick your model. So we're going to hide that in a high-end enterprise plans. People who pay $500 a month as opposed to $50 a month.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the recording. I'm sure I'm going to need it to build my own agent. I'm not like Sumit over there.
All right, I'll see you on Monday. Hopefully most of you will make it there, but if you don't have, otherwise it's going to be next Thursday. All right. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.